Beastmen were always a big part of Warhammer, but they were also quite evil for most of the time. But in 40k, at one point there existed a loyalist beastman, and I thought it's pretty cool. Seeing people make those online, I figured maybe I should make one of those, right? So I decided to do it, just like that. I got my Games Workshop Mini of the Month beastman, and I decided I'll make a beastman for myself, a loyalist one. And the first thing you really need is Kitbashing hammer. That's right, it's a hammer, and it just immediately turns your model into what you want it to be. See? It's that easy. No? Okay, fine. We'll do it the old-fashioned way, you dinosaurs. Let me just, see? We're gonna do it the old way. Obviously, we have to pull out it from sprawl. You should probably use clippers for that. I used my knife because that's what I had on hand, so I decided to get it out. By the way, do as I say, not as I do. This is dangerous, don't do that. As you can see, it's very easy for me to cut myself. Thankfully that blade is pretty blunt at this point. Yeah. Start scraping like that. Scraping's good. File is also good. Even better than injury, if you believe that. I certainly do. I just do a little bit of scraping on the parts, do a little bit of a preemptive measuring. Originally this was meant to be a guard, just a generic guardsman. I decided to cut out some of those scars because I thought they are ritual scars. That's how they look to me. They didn't look like combat scars. So I decided to cut them down and scrape them a little bit to make it less chaosy. That's a big part of turning a chaos model into a loyalist model. You have to get rid of a lot of stuff. I use super gluing gel. Gel's great. You should probably use plastic glue. Despiking, that's a term we're going to officially use now. It's a process of just removing all the spikes, as you may figure out. I try to align the blade in such a way, if it slips, it's not going to cut into my finger. I failed several times. I didn't cut myself, but I failed to align the blade. Then I just decided to file it down a little bit, much safer than cutting yourself, I would imagine. There's a lot of spikes, it's a chaos model, so we're gonna have to remove some edge from that, if you will. It's a slow and careful process. Here I'm not afraid of stabbing myself because my thumb is stopping the handle of the blade, so it cannot go too far, but it's a blade, you should probably not do it. Don't do what I do. Do what I say what I tell you to do. A little bit of filing as well. You should probably use sandpaper for that. Yeah, I assembled the body. I kept the horn separate because you'll see later. I wanted to give him a hat. Every civilized creature in the world has a hat, right? Evil, like chaos, they don't wear hats because they're all bold or evil, right? Only good people wear hats. So I figure I'm going to steal a hat from this woman. It's one of the new guardsman models. You could see her head roll away, a worthy sacrifice. A little bit of scraping. There's going to be a lot of scraping actually, now that I think about it. I need to make sure that the hat is going to fit the head. It's a very elaborate shape. I'm doing some pre-measuring. What we're going to do basically is file down the horns and the top of the head to be more flat. And also later on we're going to create a curve in the hat so it fits over the horns that weren't filed flat. It's gonna look fine. I use a little bit of a triangular file because it's pretty sharp still. Just make them fit, right? Then I've decided to glue the horns on, so I have a little bit more of a little bit handle on how I actually file it down. Again, plastic glue will do fine, but I use my trusty super glue in gel form. Gel form is good because you avoid the risk of squirting it all over your workspace. I mean, I've done that several times by now. Look, a little bit more scraping never hurts. Scraping is good. Obviously, I did it with the magic of video editing. I waited for the glue to settle down. Now I'm creating the curve in the hat, so it fits over the bulbous round shapes of the horns. And I think the hat is what is going to make this model the most. It's not the loyalist gear. Hat and paint job are just going to turn this guy into a certified bona fide loyalist. Normally, I'd love for him to have some normal pants or normal armor piece, but the issue is that I'm not that good with green stuff yet. Sculpting green stuff is hard, so I'm doing it just good enough. That's my motto, by the way. Just good enough is fine. No one's going to judge me, or no one's going to judge anyone over the models like that. Well, someone probably is, but don't worry about it. Don't think about it. I'm more or less satisfied with how the hat looks. I glued it on and then I just prodded it around. The super glue takes a little bit to settle down, so I could prod it left, right. Now it's time for the gun. I've done it a lot of times. Transplanting guns is really easy. You do lose one of the guns. All you really need is a arm that holds already a different gun and you're Gucci basically. You're fine. See, I just left the handle and the trigger in the hand, and over that you can just glue a different weapon. I will replace this weapon later on. This time I used the last gun, but I realized I have enough last gun wielding guardsmen, and I don't really have anyone with a grenade launcher, so later on I'll just replace it with a grenade launcher. I didn't record that, I'm sorry. Inspiration struck me, so... But then, when I was happy enough with how it looks, I just went for it. Backpack is also very important. There was already kind of a pre-prepared harness for it on the back of the beastman, so I just needed to attach the backpack, so I decided to flatten it down, cut any necessary hair down, flatten it out a little bit, so the backpack is going to fit. I kept this little tuft of mane on the back so it looks more natural. I also decided to use a little bit of a green stuff. I'm not good at sculpting, but you can use green stuff to fill holes. And the thing I didn't thought about while making this model, and it came to me later on, is I should probably mix the green stuff with some milliput, so it's going to be easier to file down later. I didn't thought about that. I kind of regret I didn't, but it worked out. I just prodded a bunch of green stuff into the holes and then flattened it down with a tool until it looked more or less smooth. It's not going to be that visible under the paint job. I did the same thing with the belly shield, belly plate, the gut plate. I did the same with the gut plate. I just prodded a bit of a green stuff around. I did redo it several times. This is one of the times. The end result was basically the same. And it thankfully disappeared under the paint job. So it's gonna look just fine. Don't worry about it. I certainly didn't. I use my tool to just roll it over the plate, flatten it out, create a little bit of a curve in it. And I also use the tool to scrape it down a little bit on any excess. Now, when it was still soft, I scraped down a little bit of excess with my tool. That worked perfectly fine. Just good enough for me and most people that saw it. Then I went to fill the gaps in the other shoulder pad. This beastman obviously was originally a chaos model, so it had a lot of battered, old down gear. I decided to fill the gap between the model and the backpack. I could have just done it with a little bit of a sprue goo, but I didn't have sprue goo at the time. So I just used green stuff. Green stuff works perfectly fine for it too. You barely see it. Sticked it in between and then made it look like it's part of the backpack. I also filled the Chaos Star on the gun holder. It's going to be absolutely out of place when I replace the gun with the grenade launcher, but whatever. No one ever is going to question that, probably. You can see here I decided to file down the green stuff. Don't do that, that doesn't work. That's why you mix green stuff with millipads, so it's easier to file down. Because green stuff is very rubbery when it dries, while millipad is more. So, I decided to add a bunch of little gabbins all over the guy to make him look like a little bit of a pack mule. He's a big guy, so other Gosman's probably, hey, can you carry my stuff? And he's like, sure, whatever, because he wants to leave a good impression on his comrades, right? On his battle brothers. Maybe some of them abuse that, maybe don't. I imagine being a mutant like that, or an uphuman in this case, is it's a hard life. It's a hard life. More Gavins to make him look more loyal. I also decided my homebrew regiment uses a lot of runes, a little bit like Space Wolves. I even use some of the Space Wolf runes. There's nothing really special about it. I just thought it's like a little something I can add to them to make them look a little bit cooler, a little bit more unique. So I use a little bit of a green stuff to make this a flat shape. I pat it around. Pre-check if it fits, and when it's still reasonably soft, I glue it on all immediately. I should probably wait a little bit, but I want to sculpt it, like fiddle with it a little bit more, so I do it when it's still soft-ish. I use the tip of my tool to create generic rune or whatever. It doesn't really mean anything. I just make it look cool. You know, when you slap some paint on it, it's gonna look great. I pat it around, give it a little bit of a shape, flatten it out. And now he will fit much better with the rest of the army. You know, make it shapely, make it nice. distinct. And it's almost over, to be fair. I skipped the paint job. This is never going to be a painting channel. Go watch, I don't know, Eons of Battle or someone who actually knows how to paint, not me. I just make guys, okay? With my poorly shaky camera. But he's basically done. I will add a little bit more bits, replace the weapon later on. Later on I'm just gonna add grenade packs from the guardsman, so he looks like he's carrying a lot of spare grenade launcher ammo. And right at the moment, all I'm really left with is just sticking him to the base. Again, super gluing gel works perfectly fine. For sticking models, if they have a large enough surface, I think it even works better than plastic glue. But here he is. Incredibly easy thing to kitbash, looks great. I don't think I would like to make an entire box of them, because a lot of them are really chaos coded. And now, paint job, look at him. I hope you liked it. I certainly liked it. If people would like it, I'll make more. I love kitbashing, by the way. I don't know if you figured that out.